Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. And today, I'm actually on all the radio stations because yesterday, like a minute and a half before we got ready to go, something went wrong, and we had to go to alternate programming on my own stations because that's how it goes sometimes. Anyway, good morning and welcome to you, my friends. I hope you had a great 4th of July weekend if we didn't get a chance to talk to you yesterday. And we are ready to rock and roll, get ready to go to it and do our thing here this morning. It is Tuesday, which means it is the deep dive, the weekly top 3, the Alaskans for sustainable budgets. Brad Keithley is going to be jumping in with us here. And we're going to get ready to rock and roll, shall we? Chris Story coming up in hour 2 to finish us off with a coup de grace of PMA. It's a coup de grace. It's going to karate chop us into submission and to enlightenment. Let's get to it, shall we? Let's jump on in and see what's going on. Brad Keithley, who's here to soften us up a little bit here. Get us. Hey, Brad, how was your 4th of July?
It was wonderful, Michael. So was Canada Day. So
is Canada Day around the same time? You'll have to educate me on that.
So Canada Day is the day that Canada became independent or became a member of the Commonwealth. It's July 1st. So Canada celebrates the July 4th equivalent on July 1st. But because there's so many American tourists up here at that time of year, we also celebrate July 4th. So it's you sort of get 2 of them.
It's a twofer. Yeah, it's a twofer. All right. Well, good. Well, let's get ready to jump on board here and get things ready to rock and roll. First things first. I thought this was a really interesting question because normally we don't dive too far into all the national stuff, but you start off on the deep end here and you ask the question, is Elon Musk the new Ross Perot? Which is, that's an interesting question.
Well, I've actually had discussions with people who don't know who Ross Perot are. I mean, I've talked to some younger people and said, and asked that question or raised that issue, and people go, who's Ross Perot? So to begin, Ross Perot was a businessman, a very wealthy businessman, not unlike the Elon Musk of his day. Perot had started some IT companies and was very successful in those. And in 1992 or 1991 began a series of conversations on the Larry King Show, which was then a very popular talk show on TV. And Perot started outlining his concerns about where the national debt was and where the country was going, and about the economic situation of the country. Over the course of those discussions with Larry King, Perot sort of talked himself into running for president and announced halfway on the Larry King Show that he was running for president, formed a new political party called the Reform Party, and ran for president in 1992. And even though he didn't carry a state, he carried some counties, but even though he didn't carry a state, even though he got no electoral votes, he had a huge impact on national policy during that campaign. He ran some infomercials, which I remember clearly from that time, that were just sort of, chart talks talking about the national debt. And they were successful in terms of framing that issue, the national debt and the direction of the country from a deficit standpoint, successful in framing that issue as an important issue of the 1992 campaign. Both then President George Bush the first and soon to become President Bill Clinton, the other candidates in 1992 had to address that issue that Perot created. And I can say with a certainty, because I knew a lot of people in the Clinton administration during that time, I can say with a certainty that Perot's campaign and raising that issue and the positions that Clinton had to take in response to that issue in 1992 had a big impact on the Clinton administration, both the first term and the second term. And if you will recall, Clinton was the last president during which the nation had a balanced budget. Every president since then, from George Bush II on through to the present day, have run significant deficits. Clinton was the last one that actually balanced the budget and actually was reducing the national debt. There was a debate at the time about whether the Treasury was going to have to stop issuing Treasury notes or Treasury bills, which was going to be disruptive to the debt market. But that was a real issue at the time. So Perot had this huge influence, a businessman coming out of the business side, raising these issues, having a tremendous amount of money and putting that money behind his campaign, raising these issues, had a tremendous amount of impact on the national debt. For the last couple of years, the last several years, I've talked about the need for a new Ross Perot, because when you look at what's going on with the deficits and the debt in the nation, particularly with the new One Big Beautiful Bill or One Big Beautiful Act, particularly with the additional deficits and national debt that are being created by that, we need somebody to come in sort of off the sidelines, come in, get in the middle of the debate and start focusing on national debt. And when you look at what Musk has said, what Musk has done, and his discussion of forming a new party, Perot had the Reform Party. Musk is talking about forming the America Party. When you look at what Musk has said and what he's done, and the issues that he's raising, which are the national debt and the deficits and spending out of control, when you look at the issues that Musk is raising, he looks a lot like the new Ross Perot, with a lot of money backing him, being able to come in and make waves, make an issue out of this sort of thing. Now, a couple of big differences. One, Elon Musk is widely perceived as a jerk, and Perot was a jerk, but he wasn't widely perceived that way at the time. At the time he came into the race, he was perceived as something new and fresh and off the sidelines. Musk, with his tenure in the Trump administration, is not going to be perceived as something new and fresh. It's going to be perceived as, sort of somebody who's staked out positions, not wildly successful, and now raising. Second is Perot was able to personalize the issue by running for president himself. Musk can't do that because he's not a U.S. born citizen. Right. Wasn't born in the U.S. So Musk can't personalize it in the same way Perot did. And frankly, I think Perot gained a lot from being able to personalize it in that way. He was able to say, I want to be your president and I'm going to do this if I'm your president. And he was able to run for president and run from that base. Musk isn't going to be able to do that. But I will say this, that we need a Ross Perot. And if Elon Musk is because we need to change the direction of the deficits and the national debt, badly need to do that. And if Musk is what we get to do that, then fine. I mean, if Musk is as close to Perot as we can get, somebody with a lot of money behind them, the ability to articulate the message or the ability to push the message. If Musk is what we get, then that's fine. And hopefully he is successful in the same way as Perot. He's going to do it a different way. Perot personalized it. Musk is saying he's going to come into some key races to be able to create this third force that sits between the Democrats and the Republicans and can tilt one way or the other to make them successful, depending upon how they are reacting to the national debt and deficit issues. So it would be a different way than Perot did it, but Perot had a big impact coming off the sidelines and doing it, and Musk has the potential to be Perot-like, if not completely the equivalent of what Perot did, Perot-like in his impact. Michael, I can't hear you. Michael? There? But I can't hear you. So I don't know what I'm responding to. Oh, yours went out. I see. Well, all right. I'm sorry. Michael said his communications, his discussion went out. So, oh no. We aren't relying on me again, are we? We could do pantomime. Well, I don't know if I must still be on. Anyway, for those of you who don't know who Perot was and don't know about the Reform Party and don't know about the effects on the 1992 campaign, I think it's well worth.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yay.
Yay. You can hear me, but I can't hear you now. See, isn't that awesome? That's just the way it is. All right. Let me see what is, let me adjust something here real quick. And go. How about that? Can you hear me now, Brad?
I can. It's like you're in the ocean, but I can.
You can hear me, but I can't. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Okay. Hold on a second here. Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you could still hear me, but I can't hear you. There we go. How about that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I can hear you, Brad. You want to rejoin? Go ahead and rejoin the chat. I don't know. I can see you. I can see you talking. You were all fine and dandy. Something happened. Go ahead and just leave the chat. Leave the
all right. Screen and then come back. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. God dang it. You know, I'd like just one day without a complete and utter poo parade. That's what I'd really like. Just one single day. All right, let's put Brad back on the stage here. Brad, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Actual hell is going on here?
Live radio, folks.
There we go. Okay, I got you. It was me.
Right. You
It
got
wasn't
me?
you. It was me. Yeah, I got you. All right.
Stop fiddling with things.
I'm so tired. Yesterday was a full-on crisis during the entire show, and 3 hours of tech stuff afterwards, and then this morning, this is the last thing I need. Okay, so Bradley, we could finish up on the Elon Musk thing because we weren't done talking about it, and we went to break early and before we go into number 2. But I do have some questions for you on that because it was, the Perot thing. I remember it because it was early on in my married life and in my just. I was still newly interested in politics, but I have some questions, especially from perspective of people who would like to see more of a conservative bent on things. So we'll get back into that here as we go through.
Okay.
All right. 10 seconds out. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell.
Live radio.
Here we go. All right. Welcome back to the program. Brad Keithley is our guest, the weekly top 3. We went to break a little bit early there because I lost myself for a second. And I wanted to go back to that, just revisit for just a second, because one of the major concerns about Ross Perot, and Brad was saying we need a new Perot, and is Musk the new Perot? The complaint is, well, he got us Bill Clinton. Right. He split the conservative vote. And that's always been the fear of Republicans who are like, the party is not doing enough. We need a new party, a third party. But a third party always seems to split out the conservatives. And so what's your reaction to that in that regard?
Well, I guess a couple of things. The Republicans aren't doing so great, Michael. I mean, it's the Republicans. If you look at the analysis of what the one big, better, beautiful bill does,
right,
it produces deficits that are double the size of the American Rescue Plan, double the size of the CARES Act, more than double the size of the impact on the deficit, on the debt from the original Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, Trump's Act in 2017. So the Republicans aren't doing too great, and I don't think it's something to hope for the Republicans to stay in control, because they're producing bigger deficits than the Democrats did. And the second thing is Clinton was a Democrat, yes, but affected by Perot, particularly affected by Perot. Clinton pursued very conservative, relatively conservative fiscal policies. He cut back on food stamps. He cut back on TNAF, which is temporary assistance to needy families. He made deep cuts in the social network, got the budget back in balance. Now he had a lucky run at the end because of the .com bubble. Incomes went up, and so income tax revenues went up, and it helped balance the budget. But nonetheless, he had to bring down the spending side, or stall the increase in the spending side in order to achieve that balanced budget. So, yeah, it'd be great if Republicans were up to the task and were able to do it, but they are demonstrating again that they're not, and are running big deficits again.
Well, and that's always my commentary is how great a job are they actually doing? And would it be better to have a third party? I mean, at this point, I'm just looking at the debt and thinking, this can't last. This will not end well, is what I look at it and see in my mind, for sure. All right. Well, that's so I guess the final question is, so is Elon Musk the new Perot, or do you see it as just kind of, what do you see it as?
He's potentially Perot-like. He's not the new Perot because he can't run for president. He can't personalize the issue in the same way that Perot did. So he's potentially Perot-like in the sense that he can move the needle, of the national needle by forcing the issue to become a very big issue nationally and forcing the parties to respond to it. Personally, he won't be a Perot, but he can be Perot-like. And in the absence of anything else, Perot-like is better than no Perot at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move over to what we have been kind of dancing around, which is, of course, the OBBB, the one big beautiful bill, or the one big bad bill, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, I guess. So what is Alaska's response? What should Alaska's response be to the BBB? What as you look at this and see all the things, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I've been spending most of the time around the OBBA and around thinking about what is what should be the state level impact, what should be the legislature's response, what should be the governor's response, how are we going to deal with this at the state level. And the two big, there's several impacts. The two that have had the most publicity are the impact on Medicaid and the impact on SNAP, or what's formerly called food stamps. The impact on Medicaid, Murkowski tried to get an Alaska exception to it and failed. And what the Congress did generally was create this big fund, $50 billion fund for rural hospitals in response to the Medicaid cuts that are going to be made. And that's sort of a backhanded way of doing it. I mean, the Medicaid cuts are still there. The Medicaid cuts that are in the bill that are affecting everybody else are going to affect Alaska the same. So we're going to have reductions in Medicaid. What the fund does is it essentially, rural hospitals in particular, because of the demographics of their populations that they serve, rural hospitals in particular are dependent on Medicaid, on being reimbursed by Medicaid for the services that they're providing their constituents. With the Medicaid cutbacks, their constituents won't have as much Medicaid. When they walk into the hospital, they won't be able to slap down as much the Medicaid card and have their bill paid by Medicaid. So hospitals are concerned that without that revenue source, they're going to have to their economics are going to be strained, if not requiring that they fold. The hospital bailout bill, or the rural hospital bailout portion of this, is to sort of backstop the hospitals and say, okay, even though you're not going to be getting Medicaid from all of your constituents, there's going to be cutbacks in what they will pay you. We will give you money to backstop you and keep you whole. So it's sort of a backhanded way of doing it, because what will happen now is hospital constituents that don't have Medicaid will still walk into the hospital, and the hospital will still serve them, and the hospital will know they're going to get support at the back end from the hospital fund. But it's not going to be a 1-for-1 offset. So one of the impacts at the state level is going to be those Medicaid cutbacks, and whether some in the legislature are going to push for state increase to Medicaid or state subsidies, separate state subsidies to offset the Medicaid cuts. That's going to be one issue we're going to hear about. Which they said is somewhere in the neighborhood, when they discussed this earlier in the year, about $80 million a year, right? I mean, this is a pretty significant chunk of money. Right. The second one is SNAP. And SNAP, the legislature and the governor are actually going to have to do something. It's not going to be, do you want to? It's going to be, they're going to have to do something. SNAP, the problem that Alaska's in with SNAP is we are wildly non-compliant with the regulations of SNAP. We have people getting SNAP benefits that don't qualify. We have people that qualify for SNAP benefits that aren't getting them because of the way the state's been administering the SNAP program. And so the way that the Congress put in some of the SNAP reductions was for states that are non-compliant, there will be a reduction in the federal payments. I mean, basically Congress says, if you aren't going to play the game right, then we aren't going to give you all this money. which makes sense. And so the state is out of compliance, wildly out of compliance, and that would result in significant reductions. The protection that Murkowski got, or the special provision that Murkowski got, was like a 2-year window within which the state can come into compliance and not suffer that penalty. If it doesn't come into compliance, it suffers the penalty. So there's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of discussion. You can already see it, but a lot of focus on getting the state into compliance. And frankly, that's going to require money, because one of the reasons that the state's out of compliance is we have understaffed the department that's responsible for administering the program. The state administers SNAP, and we've understaffed the program that's responsible for administering the program. And so that's going to be a focus, putting the resources back into that department to get that department back up and running again to meet the obligations. The other claim that some make out of OBBA is, well, the state's going to be rolling in money because we're going to have all this additional development up at MPRA, and we're going to have all this additional development at ANWR, oil development, and so the state's going to get all the benefits out of that, and so we're going to have a lot of money. Don't worry about it. The answer to that's no. NPRA has a provision. I mean, the NPRA. There's two aspects of what the Congress has done with NPRA. One is they've increased the number of leases that are going to be available, and the Trump administration generally is reducing regulations on development. So that the claim is that's going to result in additional development up at NPRA. And with that, they also the Congress also increased the share of NPR revenues, royalty revenues that go to the state. The problem with that is that NPRA contains a provision, the NPRA Act contains a provision that the royalty share that goes to the state from NPRA be used in the local communities, be directed to the local communities. So even though the royalty share is going to increase from NPRA, it's going to go to the benefit of the North Slope Borough and other local communities up on the slope. It's sort of it will pass through the state's fingers, but there won't be a lot of
doesn't go straight into the general coffers. It goes right back and round trips right back up to where it came from.
Right. ANWR is different. ANWR doesn't have that provision. So if there are lease revenues in ANWR, then they would go to the state. But as we previously talked on the show, we're unlikely to see a lot of development in ANWR until it's clear what's going to happen in 4 years or 3 years from now. Oil companies aren't going to put a lot of money into ANWR until they see that they're going to be able to develop ANWR. They're going to be able to see that 4 years from now or 3 years from now, there's going to be a continuation of the Trump approach. They'll be concerned that we're going to have a snapback to the Biden approach, and all of a sudden, all that money they will have invested toward development of ANWR will be wasted. And so they're going to be very, very skeptical about investing a lot of money in ANWR. So even though the ANWR provisions, even though ANWR lease revenues would come back to the state, would flow back to the state, there's not going to be a lot of those, I don't think, that are going to be developed. The final issue about that also is even on the NPRA side, we would still get production tax. But the way our production tax system works, that shows up in the 2050s or 2060s or something, because we defer a bunch of revenue from developments from new developments, and so that revenue wouldn't come through on production tax until way down the road if it's not offset then. So there's not those who think, oh, we're going to be rolling in money because we're going to have a whole lot of additional money from this development that the one big bill promotes on the slope. That's not going to happen. So the big issues the state's going to have to confront is Medicaid. What are we going to do about the reduced Medicaid payments that are going to come through? SNAP. What are we going to do about the potential of a big penalty hitting in 2 years?
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch, and of course, on top of this, all $3.8 trillion in deficit at the national level. On top of that, not to mention what the state has to deal with in and of itself, and that to me is the challenge on this whole thing. Like, where we get all this stuff, and yet the cost of it is still we're still staggering under the cost, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm just a little concerned about the fact that nobody seems, that and if you even raise the question about it, I've been seeing people on X and other places get dogpiled by asking the question about what about the cost of it? And then they're immediately dogpiled about, well, why do you love Kamala? Why do you love why do you hate Trump? I mean, it's just like, I'm just asking a question about the cost of the bill, not about, and it's kind of demoralizing to watch this, this litmus test.
Yeah. See, yeah. I mean, go back to 1992 again. The complaint was Ross Perot led to Bill Clinton. Well, I mean, we weren't going down the right track with George Bush first, and we hadn't been going down the right track with Reagan's second term in terms of impact on debt, in terms of what was going on with national debt. So, yeah, I mean, you got to focus on the cost, and if that means the Republicans can't get their act together, then maybe we need a different system. Maybe we need the third party that Musk talks about that would have be able to tip the balance of power one way or another, and use that to reduce cost and reduce deficits and ultimately reduce the national debt. But yeah, the one big bill is going to be a challenge for Alaska. Yes, it does open up new areas for by expanding the leases, which is what the one big bill does. By expanding the leases, it opens up the potential for new development, but it's not anywhere near a certainty that new development is either going to occur, particularly over in Anwar in the near future, and B, if it does, it's going to result in additional revenues to the state anytime in the near future. So we've got the cost pressure that's going to hit us from Medicaid and from SNAP, and we've got the sort of murky revenue potential that's way down the road if it's any place. And to your point about the national debt, I mean, somebody's going to have to come in and decrease federal spending, and Alaska is highly dependent on federal spending. In addition to Medicaid, on top of Medicaid and on top of SNAP, Alaska is highly dependent on federal spending. So as these deficits pile up, and as somebody finally comes in and gets them under control by reducing federal spending, that's gonna boomerang back on Alaska as well. Not an immediate issue,
no,
but one that's lurking out there, a big one that's lurking out there down the road.
Again, because somebody has to do it, Brad. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, arithmetic says you can't keep spending what you don't have in ad infinitum, right? Indefinitely. You can't. You just, we can't keep doing what we're doing and expect that it's going to work out, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Yep. Another way of saying that, with friends like these, who needs enemies, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Selling our children down the road to make it work. All right. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we will return. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, is our guest. The weekly top three. We've got number 3 dead ahead. We will be back with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Okay, Brad Keithley, our guest, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. Spread the blame, Brad, says Kim. There's plenty of blame to go around. I mean, this is a Republican and a Democratic problem. There is no two ways about this. There is plenty of blame. In fact, this is not just solely a Democrat or a Republican problem. This is just a politician problem. That's what we have right now, is essentially a politician problem.
Yeah. I wrote a piece the other day, short piece, that essentially said, both parties are to blame. That they're both going down this road of spending without having revenues to offset it, or spending at levels above revenues, however you want to put it. And it doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't make a difference between whether you got Democrats or you got Republicans, because again, the deficits that are being created by the one big beautiful bill are bigger than the deficits created during the Biden administration. So, with friends like these, who needs enemies? And yeah, okay, I'll spread the blame on both sides. That's why Musk is intriguing, like Perot was intriguing in '92. It's intriguing because what Musk essentially says is he's going to target a few races, at least what he says now, is he's going to target a few races, a few congressional races, House races and Senate races, to try to get a middle group, so that neither the Republicans nor the Democrats are in control, and then use that middle group to negotiate for the majority by extracting concessions out of the majority party, out of whoever wants to be in the majority, concessions in terms of spending levels or offsetting revenues to reduce the deficit. And that was sort of, it's not what Perot really had in mind. Perot had in mind him becoming president and then running the thing in a way that reduced spending levels and closed the deficit. But it's sort of the same effect. And that's non-party aligned. It essentially says that both parties are at fault. We're going to get in the middle. We're going to control who gets in the majority, and we're going to negotiate these spending cuts as a result of it. The Freedom Caucus, the House Freedom Caucus, says they've tried to do that. Chip Roy and others say they've tried to do that, but they fold like a cheap suit when push comes to shove. So presumably Musk's party, the American Party, would be more less likely to fold and more likely to extract real concessions in the Congress.
Well, you could only hope, because again, the thing is, Brad, I think I said this yesterday, we're running out of road to kick the can down. That's the problem. Is that eventually, there won't be any more. You're going to have to face the music. And when that happens, we saw the Weimar Republic. We saw what happened to some of these things. And on top of that, the fact that we're the world reserve currency, it could get, we may lose, we've created our own monster here. We just can't seem to acknowledge that. That's the problem.
Not only are we running out of road, we're speeding up. We're speeding the car up.
Right. Exactly.
The deficits, one more time, the deficits coming out of the OBBA are bigger than the deficits during the Biden administration. Bigger. We're speeding the car up. We're speeding the car toward the cliff. The only difference between the Democrats and the Republicans right now is who they're spending the deficit on. The Democrats want to spend it one way on social programs. The Republicans are spending it another way in terms of tax cuts for the wealthy. But it doesn't make any difference. They're both spending it, and Trump is the OBBA speeds the car up. So we're running out of road, yes, but we're speeding the car down the remaining road as we go.
Yeah. Well, like I said, both, what if I told you that the left wing and the right wing were both part of the same bird, right? That's kind of where we're at right now. We have a politician problem. Nobody wants to be the bad guy to tell them that the gravy train is over and that we can't be all things to all people. And nobody wants to be that. And, Musk is an ass sometimes. There's no doubt about it. The guy, and he's kind of a conundrum because he was, his company has had a bunch of subsidies and done all these things, but he's also hugely innovative, and he also is hugely successful in many, many ways. And so when you start hearing him talk about some of these things, it makes people listen. So maybe that is the good thing. But I thought it was cool when he said the other day, this thing is full of pork and everything. And Trump said, well, maybe we should cut your subsidies. And he said, cut it all. I would love to see. I would love to see that. But
And
again,
then his stock tanked.
and then his stock tank. But I mean, he's the richest guy in the world, so he's like, I'm okay. I mean, what are you going to do? You sometimes you got to take a stand. All right, we're going to continue on here. Hopefully the music is back. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this. Nope. No.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. I was just messing with everybody there at the end because I felt Brad started laughing. And sometimes we need a good laugh, Welcome back to the program. The weekly top 3 continues. We just finished talking about, Elon Musk and now the response to the OBB. And now we have this new maneuver by the governor I'm starting to wonder if he got some new advisors somewhere in there or whatever, because all of a sudden he's doing some interesting stuff. The governor has called a special session for August the 2nd. And he's delineated that special session should cover education reform and the development or the building of the Department of Agriculture. And so, Brad, this was kind of a surprise because everybody's like, nobody's gonna do this. Forrest Dunbar. Sorry, Forrest. Forrest Dunbar is going to be overseas, and this person's out, and that person's out. Nobody wants to do the special session, and the governor's like, "Nope, we're going to do it." So, give me your thoughts on this.
Well, tactically, it's brilliant. I mean, I had not even thought of the idea of calling a special session to force the vote on the veto overrides. I mean, basically, what the Constitution provides is that following a veto after the end of a session, that the legislature, if it's going to vote on veto overrides, I guess it must vote on veto overrides the way some people read the Constitution, that it must vote within 5 days of the next session, be it a regular session or a special session. So tactically, what the governor is doing by calling a special session is forcing the votes on the veto override, particularly of his appropriations cut for education, forcing the votes on the veto override in this special session. And also, there's some other bills, including the audit bill for the oil and gas taxes that the legislature passed and the governor vetoed. That there's some also other veto bills out there that would be subject to the same rule, that you vote within the first 5 days of the special session. Governor, the reason it's tactically brilliant is because you've got legislators spread all over hell and back for the summer. You've got Forrest Dunbar in Poland on National Guard duty. And you've got legislators who were scheduled to go to the National Conference of State Legislatures annual meeting in Boston, I think it is, that same weekend, head out that same weekend as the governor's called the special session for. So the governor has, I mean, tactically, it's brilliant because it reduces the chances that.
You still with me, Brad?
Are we here?
Yeah, we're here. You all of a sudden you were like, you froze for a second, like the world. So you were saying, sorry.
All right. So it's tactically brilliant in the sense that the governor's forcing this early vote on the veto overrides. Does it really do anything? I mean, we'll recall back in 2019 that the legislature passed appropriations. The governor vetoed a bunch of those appropriations. The legislature then came back in the next session and passed a supplemental bill that were those same appropriations. And in the meantime, the governor had gotten squeezed by the recall effort. And when the legislature passed the supplemental appropriations that essentially reappropriated the stuff the governor had vetoed, the governor didn't veto it a second time. So what would happen, what the equivalent here is the governor's vetoed education, called the special session because of the tactics around the special session, limitations around the special session. The legislature doesn't override his cut of the appropriations. But then when they come back in next spring or early next year, they pass a supplemental that includes the same appropriations, puts it back to the governor. And if the governor vetoes it a second time, then they're all sitting there. Everybody's sitting there ready to override the veto. So it's a tactic, sort of maybe a delaying tactic rather than a kill shot. But it's an interesting tactic.
Yeah, no, and I think it does a couple things. And first of all, I think they were counting on the fact that he was going to veto it, and then they'd be able to tackle that and make that a core issue at the very beginning of the session, going into this election year, and be able to tie these legislators to the governor's vote or the governor's veto early on. Now that they're doing, that he's going to try and force the issue another 6 months early. Well, people got a short memory, so maybe by that time they'll have forgotten some of that. I think he wins either way. I think this is a win for the governor either way, whether he gets overridden or whether he's able to hold off the override. I think it's a win for him either way. And I like you said, brilliant. I thought was tactically brilliant. Was a good piece. Now we see that he has also called on the minority members not to attend for the first 5 days, and which I thought was kind of bold. But what do you say? What do you say to that?
Well, it's sort of cute. I mean, he's trying, in a way, he may be trying to give them cover for not voting for the minority members being put in a position where they have to vote one way or the other on the veto override. Well, the governor didn't tell me not to show up, and we all support the governor, right? And so they don't get put in a position where they have to vote one way or another on the veto override. It's still, that still may be a short-term thing, because if he does veto, the veto's upheld. They come in at the beginning of the next session, they pass the supplementals, immediately pass the supplementals or very shortly pass the supplementals. Governor vetoes it again, then those minority members are put in the same position. And this is all before the next election cycle. So it may be a short-term gain, but it looks, to me, it sort of looks like trying to give the minority members cover.
Exactly
that they didn't make the decision not to show up. It was the governor told me not to make the decision.
Right. Well, because not showing up is a no vote, and the governor was just trying to obviously issue them a little bit of a little hedging of their bets there. What do you have a prediction for the special session? Are they going to gavel in, gavel out? Are they going to attempt it? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, Stevens said, Gary Stevens, the president of the Senate, said he's going to gavel in and gavel out. Gavel in, take the veto override votes, regardless of what comes from them, just gavel out, because his position is there's both the two issues that the governor's nominated for the special session. One is education policy, and the second is the Department of Agriculture. Both of those got dealt with in the last session, and both of those the legislature said no on those issues. And Stevens said, we haven't changed our mind. We're not. Why are we going to go back and revisit this? Why are we going to waste the time going back and revisit this? So, yeah, we'll come into session because the Constitution says we have to. We'll hold the veto votes because the Constitution said we have to. But there's nothing else to do because we've already been down these roads. We've already made the decisions we've made. And there's no incentive. The governor hasn't created any additional reason to go down these roads again. So there's no reason to stick around. And if the Senate is going to do that, I doubt if Stevens would have said that without checking with his membership. So if the Senate's going to do that, there's no reason for the House to stick around because they can't act alone on any of this stuff. So I'm sure they follow suit. Maybe a day after, maybe the same time, but they follow suit. The disappointing thing, I will say this: the disappointing thing about this are the issues that Dunleavy called the special session on: education policy and agriculture policy. Already been decided. There's not going to be a change on those. At the same time, we have huge fiscal issues, and the governor said at the end of last session that he wants to work on fiscal issues, that he's ready to work on fiscal issues. They said the governor's spokesman has said they'll have a package ready to go at the beginning of the next session on fiscal issues. Well, if you're going to have a package ready to go at the beginning of the next regular session, you can have a package ready to go now. I mean, it's not like these fiscal issues are new.
Where is it?
It's not like we haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
And so the disappointing thing is that he didn't use, I mean, tactically, yes, tactically, this was all a tactic to get the veto overrides up. But if you're going to do this, I mean, let's do it for some purpose, something that actually we need, which is fiscal policy. And I'm disappointed that if the governor was going to do this, unless it was just solely for the tactical reason, and maybe that's the explanation of it. But if the governor was going to do this, that he didn't call it on fiscal issues and didn't have a package ready to go on fiscal issues. Because, I mean, we are never going to be able to do education policy until we get fiscal policy set. We're always going to debate whether we're spending too much, too less, too little on education policy until we understand who's paying and how much we have. And until we resolve that, we're not going to get education policy resolved. Yeah, so
I guess my question is what is the answer there, Brad? Because we saw the fiscal policy working group. I mean, does the governor call his own policy? They wouldn't even, I mean, they had a unified front. They had all decided, all these separate people and different political philosophies had all agreed, and then absolutely nothing happened. So, I mean, do we just get more of that, or do we actually get something that fixes it? I mean,
so there's a difference. I mean, what we had was the legislative working group, and they came up with a proposed fiscal policy, but the governor never said anything about it. The governor didn't try to implement it through bills of his own. He sort of let legislators, let Ben Carpenter and others wander out there and die on the road trying to fight for it as individual legislators. I think it would be different, significantly different, if the governor brought that same package as his package and said, okay, you guys have talked about this. This is what you settled on. I thought about it. Right. These are the bills to implement it. Here's a legislative session focused solely on that. Let's go. And I think, and he fights for it. And I think that's a different dog than where we ended up last time after the fiscal policy working.
Well, we talked about how a strong governor could do that, could drive the boat, could spearhead, could put the plan in place, could change how they factor the budget, could do all those things. And that's what we need. We need a strong governor to be able to do that. And, well, so far we've been a little disappointed. We're just, let's put it that way. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. Thank you, my friend. Good to talk with you.
Michael, is always good to see you.
Folks, we are out of time. Hour 2 is dead ahead. We return in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Chris Story coming up at the end of Hour 2. All right. You're right. This is, again, where we've talked about this strength and this power of the Alaska executive, the administration, right? I mean, it's a strong governor. And yet we haven't had a strong, the position is strong, but we need somebody who's strong to be able to take that position and say, okay, I'm going to steer the bus, and here's my new road. And we thought he was going to do that early on, but of course, again, he got his hand slapped over the whole, cuts and the Donna Ardwin bill and the recall and everything else. But he's just never really recovered from that. And it seems like everything is just kind of go along to get along. Although this last couple of weeks has been interesting to watch, this posturing, and I'm not sure exactly what to make of it.
Well, it's stuff he can do unilaterally, though, Michael. I mean, determining a fiscal policy would require legislative involvement because you have to change the statutes. But this tactic of calling everybody back and forcing early votes on the vetoes is something he can do unilaterally, and he can do that, but he's not been able to be a leader in the sense of getting the troops together. Somebody the other day said, well, Bill Walker tried this all-in package. He tried to put, some spending cuts and some revenues, and that never worked. So why should Dunleavey try the thing that even Walker couldn't get across? And the difference to me is the fiscal policy working group. Walker never had a legislative outline of things that at least some legislators had signed off on as going together in a package. And Walker didn't have a legislative package that he could say, look, the legislature said this, I'm going to agree with it with these couple of changes. And here's your own package, legislature. Here's your own package back in front of you. Now pass it and get behind it. Dunleavy has that. Dunleavy with the fiscal policy working group, although he's let time run on it, certainly. But Dunleavy has, with the fiscal policy working group, he has that package. He's got to fill in some of the details, but he can say, legislature, you put together a working group. This is what you decided. That working group decided they were willing to do. Some revenues, some cuts, some oil tax reform, some other things in there. This is some cuts to the PFD coming down to 50-50, POMV 50-50, PFD. This is what you decided. This is what you recommended. I endorse that with these couple of changes or not. I endorse that. And here's your package back with my endorsement. Pass it, and we can get this behind it. Dunleavy has that. And he's had that since what, 2021? Is that when the fiscal policy working group was? Yep. So he has that ability. He has that package he can endorse. And I don't know what he's going to do. To be honest, I have some doubts that when we get to the regular session, he's going to have a fiscal policy package. I'm expecting it's going to be like Trump's tariffs, right? 2 more weeks. But I mean, he has that, and he could have come to this special session and said, "Hey, I got a tactic, and I'm going to screw you guys on the vetoes you did, but at the same time, I'm also endorsing your fiscal policy working group package, and we're going to go forward from there." Didn't do it, and I think it's a wasted opportunity for him not to have done it.
He could have. You're saying that he could have called the special session knowing that they were going to do the veto override, but the whole purpose of the special session could be a financial plan based on the fiscal policy working group plan.
Yep. And actually make some progress, because then you put the legislature in the position. There were some liberal legislators who were on that fiscal policy working group. Then you put the legislature in the position of saying, you guys put this up. I'm endorsing it. Right now. Are you willing to live up to what you said in the fiscal policy working group and sort of get the advantage back over on that side? And doing it in a special session keeps the focus on that, keeps the bright light right on that. I think it would have been a great maneuver, but it's not what he's doing.
Well, there's nothing stopping him doing that coming into the next budget cycle, though, right? I mean, he could, and you're right, it would have been great to do it on the special session, but if he comes into the next budget cycle with the budget and then this fiscal policy working group plan and basically tied them all together and put legislation in, I mean, he could still do that then, right? He's got one more bite at this apple, so to speak.
He could, and I hope he does. Now that he's passing up the opportunity to do it on the special session, I hope he does at the beginning of the session. But the problem with doing it during the regular session is there's 15,000 other issues going on. And there's a whole bunch.
He can make it the focus of the special session, right? That he calls the special session. You can only talk about what he says you want to talk about, and he could do it. Right.
Exactly. And that, I mean, he's had that tool since 2021, and I really have hoped that he was going to use it. And when I saw the initial indicator on the special session, the initial headline, which just said Dunleavy calls special session, given what he said at the end of the regular session, which was, we need to focus on fiscal policy, a little late, but we need to focus on fiscal policy. I thought, all right, now we're going to finally put 2 and 2 together, and we're going to get this done. And then, I'm going to call it on things that the legislature's already rejected. But there's this neat tactic in here that I get to do along with it. It's a wasted opportunity, another wasted opportunity. I think, as we go down this road of the state falling deeper and deeper and deeper into this deficit cycle.
All right, Brad. Well, now you get to go enjoy another week of relaxation and enjoyment out there, Cape Breton. Thank you so much for coming on board. We look forward to seeing you back here. Appreciate you coming in today. Thank you.
Michael, as always, thanks for having me.
All right. We'll see you next week. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. All right. we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Hour 2 is right now.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
Sounds just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends, and welcome to hour 2 of this big radio broadcast for Tuesday. We just finished up with Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, who came on board and gave us the weekly top 3. Not, it was not topics that I would expect for most of them, especially the Elon Musk and the BBB thing, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But I want to start with the last one first, and that is the fact that the governor had an opportunity, and it's taken. I mean, again, what we've said earlier was a pretty crafty political maneuver here with this special session, but then also at the same time kind of missed the boat, had the opportunity. And I agree with Brad that there were some chances here and some choices made that if they had been done a little bit, if they'd been done more correctly, I don't. That's not even a word or a phrase. More correct. Even if they had been a little more concise, they really could have made a bigger impact. And that's the fact that, again, as Brad was talking about, the governor stated at the end of the regular session that he was very concerned about fiscal policy issues, about the long-term plan, which, I mean, was interesting to hear because so far very few people have talked about the long-term fiscal impact or the direction that the state is going. And I mean, it just seems like they're always talking about the next program or the next spend or the next package or the next this or that. They're not talking about the long-term fiscal outlook of the state. Like, again, the 10-year plan that the governor's office puts out every fall, well, actually twice a year, with the spring and fall revenue forecast, where you can look at it and see, well, this is going to be a problem, right? This is going to be, here's where we're projecting where things are going to go. And nobody has really been talking about long-term fiscal planning. It's not, I mean, we had Ben Carpenter talk about it. Occasionally, somebody like Kevin McCabe will mention it, or maybe Mike Shower, or, somebody else, but none of the mainstream players, none of the legislative leaders, I guess, the majority leaders, the powers that be, even the governor, are not talking about this on an ongoing basis and saying this is part of the problem. Here's what we need to be focusing on. And that's a huge deal. And so when the governor came out the end of the regular session and said we need to start talking about and focusing on fiscal planning, that made a lot of sense. But again, it just feels like it feels like lip service at some point. I mean, Mike Dunleavy had the opportunity back in 2018, 2019 to really start to drive that fiscal bus. And because he got slapped down so hard, he has shied away from it since then. He had an opportunity here. He said he was going to put together a fiscal plan and have it ready for the next session. And now he calls a special session and doesn't include it. Again, a missed opportunity. But somebody has got to be the adult in the room to say, we have got a fiscal, we've got long-term fiscal issues that we're going to have to deal with. The telegraphing that the governor is doing, and I know that Kevin McCabe and others have said that the governor's budget with the full PFD was a message from the governor to the legislature that they want a full PFD and that they should find a way, but they don't get it. They're not getting that kind of, you're being too passive aggressive. You're being too vague. You're inferring instead of just telling them. And this legislature is not going to, they're not into subtlety around here, right? They're not into subtlety. So somebody needs to grab them by the collar and shake them and say, hey, we've got to get our fiscal house in order here. If I was the governor, I would be driving a bus down the middle of the road with all those numbers painted on the side of it in red for the next 10 years to say, hey, Alaskans, this is what we're facing. I would be putting it on social media. I would be putting a chart up. I would be talking about it at every opportunity and say the legislature is responsible for managing these funds, and we're making sure that we don't have these issues, and we've got to come to grips with it. We have to develop a fiscal plan, and that's part of the problem. You can't handle the truth, right? We've got to develop a fiscal plan, and yeah, they have shown up until this point that they really don't care about the long-term fiscal stability. As long as this year's budget is taken care of, they can move on to the next one. It's just, Frank just said, really, MD, special session for budget issues, 120 days wasn't enough. No, I'm just saying if he was going to call a special session, he has an opportunity here to hyper-focus the legislature because of the way the law is written, right? In a regular session, they can go run amok and talk about whatever topic they want. They can bring up whatever bill they want. They can get sidelined, or they can, intentionally evade what the governor wants to do by doing their own thing and everything else. But in a special session, they have to basically be on task for what the governor has placed on the call. So there is an opportunity here, even though they've already done 120 days of, or 90 or 120 days of special. They can do it already. That they can do it already. But yeah, so it's a little disappointing that these legislators continue to just act like if they just go from year to year without that long-term fiscal plan, that it's all just going to be fine. And yet again, the 10-year forecast, at least now, and did I clip that? I didn't clip that. It's the part where Bert Stedman is like, well, we don't really want to focus on the fact that we're going to have a huge deficit next year. We don't want to focus on the fact that we're going to have a huge deficit. We need to focus on this year's budget. We don't want to focus on the fact that we're going to have a $1.5 billion deficit next year. We want to focus on this year's budget. We need to be looking beyond this year. We need to. We have to look beyond this year. We have to start planning for the long term, for the future. It's just asinine that nobody out there is, well, I mean, I won't say nobody because there have been some legislators that have tried, but the ones that are in charge in leadership, they don't really seem to be, they have no interest in fiscal matters. And then they let their petty political games of, well, I don't like the governor or the cut of his jibs, or I don't like, whatever, so we're just going to vote against him that way. I mean, I guess it's just petty politics. Well, we can only hope that sometime in the near future, before the wheels come off the bus, somebody can put forward some kind of fiscal plan that gives us the opportunity to plan ahead, to have something in the long run that, some kind of strategic idea, because as of right now, it definitely ain't working. Let's just put it that way. It definitely ain't working. All right. We got, do I have time to do this? I just wanted to play this because this was so, this was so cool to watch in regards to Brad Keithley, talking about Ross Perot, and is Elon Musk the Ross Perot of yada yada yada. And I thought, well, this would be interesting. And this is Ross Perot in one of his original infomercials that ran during the 1992 general election. And this is just the opening of that second infomercial that he ran. And I think it's just brilliant. So I wanted to play it for you here. Isn't that the killer right there? Like, it was Cicero 2,000 years ago wrote these. You keep thinking, oh man, it's going to be great. We got all these other, these are all new problems. These are obviously not new problems. These are not new problems. The budget should be balanced. The treasury should be refilled. Public debt should be reduced. The arrogance of public officials should be controlled. And you're like, oh yeah, this is all new stuff. This is all that. No, 2,000 years ago. Wow, it kind of makes my 25 years on doing the radio, 25 years of doing the radio seem like it was kind of a whole deal, right? Well, we'll continue on here. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube. If you want to come out there and join us on YouTube and Facebook, you can do that as well. We've got the chat room, and we will be back with more in just a moment. Don't forget, Chris Story is going to be joining us at the end of the show. We'll see what we can do. All right. We'll be back right after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show. because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, well, you guys didn't miss much. I thought you heard it, but I saw that you didn't. Anyway, it was just Ross Perot opening up the thing saying, here's a little something that we could do to fix everything. And he just held up a placard that says, history repeats itself. The budget should be balanced. The treasury should be refilled. Public debt should be reduced. The arrogance of public officials should be controlled. This is not something that's new. This was said by Cicero 2,000 years ago. So this is nothing. There is nothing new under the sun, is what she's saying there. Nothing new under the sun. That's the whole thing right there. There's the placard from the Ross Perot. It's such a bad. Holy cow! The quality is so bad. Anyway, that's Ross Perot holding up this placard and reading about history repeats itself. So it was just, to me, it just was striking that here we are 2,000 years later acting like all this is new, like everything has been perfect up until just recently. And then the public officials got arrogant, and then the budget deficits were run up and the treasury wasn't being refilled. And, we didn't have balanced budgets. And that's, again, part of the problem. Part of the problem here is that we keep thinking that history is not repeating itself, but it has over and over and over again. So it's just one of those things. All right. Let's see. They said they would leave a senator or two down there to do technical and sessions for the entire 27 days, so we'd never know if we needed to be there or not. Oh, yeah, that's back in the day. Petty politics from the Juneau Clown Posse? I am shocked. Shocked, I tell you, says Brian. Yeah. We will not. Yeah, Bert Stedman's statements say we will not adult responsibly. Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. So, says Frank, should I believe that participating in government is insanity? Yes. Yes, you should. Absolutely. 100%. 110%. That's what. Can you guys hear my dog? I'm just asking for a friend. Can you guys hear my dog? Because this guy is just, he's, yeah. Yeah, there is nothing new under the sun. That is 100%, 110% true at this point. It seems like we're just repeating history over and over and over again. It's all the same stuff all the time. All right. All right. I'm just making sure that we got everything here is working. All right. It's all good. Yeah, it was the very first question that I asked Kevin. When exactly did you lose your mind? Because it is the definition of insanity. It's the very definition of insanity that you start working in those kind of things. David says, Juneau is not a rational place during session. I've been told by a former staffer that it's more like junior high school, personality driven, which is just sad, man. Well, I mean, we're all supposed to be adults. We're all supposed to be working in a certain way. What's going on? Why? Why? What are we going to do? I mean, really, what do we do? Well, we just do what we can do at that point. All right. But that's how I feel like too. Watching it from the outside in, I feel like this is episode of, what is it, Degrassi High or whatever the hell the high school show was back in the day. Remember that? What was it? I can't remember what it was. It just feels like that, man. Feels bad.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
We just had a couple of comments in the chat room. It said Juneau is not a rational place during the session. David says, I've been told by a former staffer that it's more like junior high school, personality driven. And I'm like, what is this like? What was that show? Degrassi High, right? Where all the kids and the teenagers were in high school, and it was, you know, the book, the give and take and the drama and all that stuff. And Kevin McCabe says, no, it is Survivor for middle school children. It's like the show Survivor. But that's a feeling I get coming out of it, right? I mean, it's these clashing personalities. It's the grudge matches. It's the, I don't like the governor, so that anything that makes him look good or may give him a positive, but we're not going to allow that, right? I mean, it's any of those things that we see in these various things. It is this kind of, you know, 7th and 8th grade middle school mentality of, oh, this is a, you know, this is where we're at, and there are no adults in the room. You hurt my feelings. You hurt my feelings. And so I'm going to be mad at you, right? I mean, we heard Mike, that's what Mike Shower was talking about. You know, he calls somebody out, and then immediately, you know, they get ramrodded in the legislature. Nobody wants to play with the 3, you know, minority legislators last session, the session before last. And it was all because of your behavior. If you'd behave nicely, we'd want to play with you. What? Because they said something that you disagreed with? They said something you did. I mean, how 12th grade is that? Not even 12th grade. How 7th grade is that? I mean, that's the thing. Everything is now, I mean, and this is going on in all aspects of life, but everything is politics. Everything becomes political at this point. You know, they will try and, I mean, did you see the commentary from the somebody down in Texas? Some lady down in Texas was talking about the summer camp, the Christian summer camp, and she made some kind of snide comment about how it was just a bunch of, you know, they're only focusing on all those kids that got lost because they were white kids and they were, you know, I mean, it was just political. It was hateful, right? It's political. I don't know why everything has to become a political litmus test. Why? Can't we just focus on the facts? Can't we just focus on policy? Can't we just focus on whatever? Can't we just agree to disagree? And then if you get the votes, great. And if I get the votes, great. And we can just move on? Can't we just do that? I mean, that's what, you know, that's the insanity. It was a horrific statement. And then there was another gal that was a pediatrician or something, she made a statement that was even worse. Basically, you know, you got what you asked for, because most of these people were right wing and they asked for FEMA to be shut down, and you get what, I mean, it was just, why do people do that? Why can't you have some empathy? Why can't you have some respect? Why can't you be, I mean, you know, why can't you? I don't know. But this is really sticking with me this morning. This whole history repeats itself, right? This idea that this was the verbiage This was the verbiage from 2,000 years ago that in 1992 seemed fresh and new. The budget should be balanced. The treasury should be refilled. Public debt should be reduced. The arrogance of public officials should be controlled. I keep thinking that this is some kind of new problem. You know, for 25 years, I've been saying, wow, this is just kind of getting worse and worse. This is just kind of, but really, is it getting worse and worse? I mean, look at what happened to Rome. Rome destroyed itself, in part through devaluation of its own currency and monetary policy. And here we are. You know, here we are 2,000 years later about to destroy ourselves for exactly, and all the nation states and countries and monarchies that have done exactly the same thing since Rome fell. That they didn't have to balance a budget. They thought that the treasury didn't matter if the treasury was filled or not. They could borrow their way out of it. That public debt should be eliminated or reduced, but that doesn't matter. It's the public. What do we care? And the arrogance of public officials should be controlled. And they're like, but we know better than you. Why should we control it? Because we know better than you. I mean, I kind of feel a little better in some ways because I know that we are just repeating history in ad infinitum. Just because we're not learning. Nobody wants to learn. Nobody wants to make that hard decision. Nobody wants to make that hard call and be the bad guy and say, hey guys, we just can't do this anymore. We're going to run out of money and we're not going to have enough. And then our kids will be struggling. And it won't, they just, again, they always think it will happen to somebody else, either some other country or somebody else further away from them in time, right? So not me, but maybe it'll happen. I won't get caught playing musical chairs. I'll always have a seat, but that other guy, he might get caught out. Never, we're too big to fail. It just won't happen to us. And then it does. And, regardless of the circumstances or regardless of what history tells us, these people just, they don't believe any of it. We'll be fine. Just worry about next year. Don't worry about this year's budget, or don't just worry about this year. Don't worry about next year's budget or the year after that or 5 years down the road. That'll take care of itself. What can I get my constituents this year? What can I spend money on this year? How do I get my hands on that money this year? And that's kind of where we're at. So it's almost gratifying to see this piece and to realize that history just repeats itself. And we have, we're just doomed to repeat the fail to learn the lessons of history. And the worst part is that those of us that are students of history and are watching this are, we're the ones that are out here biting our nails. Like, how do we get people to pay attention? How do we show them that this is what happened before and it will happen again? And then you come to realize that some of these folks, those who are in power, just don't care. As long as they get theirs in the short term, it's all okay. As long as they get theirs in the short term, it's all okay. So, I just don't know. I just don't know where we go from here. Now, Elon Musk has formed or is forming the American Party. He says that he said the day after the 4th of July, so on Saturday, he said, today the American Party is formed to give you back your freedom. By a factor of 2 to 1, you want a new political party and you shall have it. Now, again, Musk is a bit of a conundrum. I admire the man. I really do. As an immigrant, as an entrepreneur, as a genius. I mean, it's so many things, but also so socially awkward in so many ways. And yet, and a conundrum in the fact that here he was taking subsidies for all these green stuff and the cars and all that kind of stuff. But I did have to admire him on and I can't find the tweet right now. I had it, I snipped it out, and I don't see where I put it. But basically, it was when he and Trump were fighting recently over the big beautiful bill, and Musk was going on and on about how this is going to cost us. It's going to cost us huge money. It's going to bankrupt the country. And then Trump says, well, maybe we should just look at eliminating all the subsidies for your Tesla cars or your electric cars or whatever he said. It was basically a threat. Well, why don't we just, if you don't like it, we'll just take all the money out that we have earmarked for you. And Musk's response to that was cut it all. So, I mean, I kind of admire the guy. I really do. He's a little wackadoo, right? He gets a little weird, but again, remember, this is what happens sometimes with geniuses. They're not always socially acceptable. A lot of times they're socially awkward. But I mean, I don't know. If he creates this new political party, what does it do? What does it do for us? I'm not sure. I don't know if he's got the mass appeal that Ross Perot had in 92 when he went to educate a lot of people. Because that was the thing. I think people came away from Ross Perot feeling educated about what was happening. They just didn't know, and Perot put it into terms that most Americans could understand. And and Brad was right. He forced the conversation for Bush and Clinton into that arena to where they had to address it. They had to create policies. They had to articulate policies that they were going to take. And eventually the American people were going to hold them accountable to it. So Perot did a good thing in that regard, even though it was with Clinton instead of with Bush. But I mean, it's a challenge. And of course, the one thing that we see is anytime somebody starts talking about, and we saw the same thing during the Tea Party movement. Oh, the Tea Party, they're going to split off and they're going to split the conservative vote, and this will give the Democrats the win. It's like they're always afraid that the conservatives are going to split amongst themselves instead of, well, I mean, that tells you a couple things. One, something is fundamentally flawed on the conservative side if we keep having to have these breaks to try and bring things back on track, or two, we need to find out whatever the secret is on the Democratic Party side, so they're so unified all the time. Well, part of it's just philosophy, right? It's the kumbaya communal thing versus the rugged individualist. That's what it's all about. But I'll be interested to see what comes of Elon Musk's America. What was it? We called it the America Party. The America Party. So we'll see. We'll see if he continues to bandy words with the president or talk about it. But again, if you're looking over on X and you look at the major bills in the last 10 years, the one big beautiful bill, and I mean, I'm sure many of you are hugely in support. I was in support when it had the NFA stuff in it, simply because I wanted to get that. I knew they were probably going to pass it anyway, but I really wanted that in there. But the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, as written, adds $3 trillion to the deficit. If it's made permanent, not just the short-term thing, it's $3.7 trillion, almost $4 trillion added to the deficit in a single bill. In a single bill, which is more than Biden's, than Biden's entire presidency. That's part of the problem. That's a huge amount. It puts it right up there because Biden had the CARES Act, the American Rescue Plan, and the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And between those, they were at $3.2 trillion. And this is 3.7 if it is made permanent in a single bill. We should be concerned. We should be worried. We should be talking about these things. I'm not saying that there's not good things in this bill, but I'm just saying we should be talking about these things for sure. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Chris Story, our guest, up next.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Let's go over here and let's see. Here we go. Let's try this. See if this works here this morning. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Hello.
Thank you for calling. May this message find you living on top of the world and...
Okay. Let me see what's going on here. Let's do this again. Let's see what Chris is doing again. One more time here. And look at that. Are you awake now?
Just trying to make you sweat a little bit.
Oh, was that it? We're all good now, huh? Okay. All right.
Oh, good.
Okay, good.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just figured you'd lost your phone and you couldn't find it. It was somewhere in the couch cushions or something. So
No, I just escaped the library for a moment to get another cup of coffee, and
yeah,
but I missed you.
Yep, well, that's all good. All right. Well, if you're ready, we're ready. What's our topic for today here, my friend?
The other Pareto principle.
The other Pareto principle.
Yes.
The other one. There's another one. I don't even know what the first one is, but you know.
Oh, you do too. Don't be such
I know.
Luddite. Luddite. No, troglodyte. I apologize.
Troglodyte.
Troglodyte.
Yeah. Troglodyte. Knuckle dragging troglodyte. Is that?
Yes.
Did you just call me a knuckle dragging troglodyte? All right.
Well, you are troglodytic.
I am troglodytic. All right, my friend. Well, let's I'll put you on hold here and I'll be back to you in just a second. Let me get caught up in the chat room here. And let me fix my my stuff here. So that I can bring the Chris Story screen up on the deal here. The deal and the thing. The dealio, the dealy bobby. It's so technical these days. All right. Look at that. We got it all up. Chris Story's all up. Let me go back to the chat room here. See what you guys are talking about here. The phones are working. Let's do this. Okay. Guest Story hadn't seen your trials this morning. No, and he didn't see my trials. It's all fine. I'm going backwards here. The Transportation Security Administration has eliminated the requirement for passengers to remove their shoes during airport checks effective July 8th. Really? So you don't have to take your shoes off anymore. Well, that's genius, you know. For a genius, you'd figured he'd grasp the concept that ideologically capturing a significant voter base out of the left and right and effectively nullifying a percentage of the vote, he'll make it more difficult to make change within the systems. The only way to fight the two-party cultists is to tear it all down. Yeah, but I mean, until he can build a neutron political bomb that, you know, basically wipes out the whole wipes out both parties simultaneously. I mean, there's just no way to, that's the thing. I don't know. Kim says the masses aren't ready for Elon. David says he may get more D's now that the D party is broken. Are they really broken? Because they seem to be working as intended in many ways to me. Where else would they go? Not sure he will get those who stand with Trump. Yeah, but I mean, I think I would still listen to him. I may not follow him, but I mean, at least I'm going to listen to him. Let's see. Dave, yeah, not a word. Sure. No one wants to give up free cheese. You're not counting the first time we cut the deficit and all the money coming in for tariffs and industries moving back to the good old US of A. Don't forget those of us that don't know contemporary Mayor Peru's campaign. Okay, Mayor Perot is kicking off his campaign tonight. Okay. Anthony says he's more likely to invent an actual neutron bomb before the two-party systems loosened up its death grip on the country. Yeah, I mean, I was talking about not a literal, but a proverbial, a hyperbolic neutron bomb. But you're right; he's more likely to build an actual one in before we actually are able to pull it out of this whole political maelstrom. All right. Well, here we go. Again, the other Pareto principle from our friend Chris Story, the man from Homer, the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
So every week we bring on the man, the myth, the legend in his own mind, Chris Story, who you can find at ilovehomeralaska.com. That's where his writings, his musing, his pottery, his poetry, his book writing, his audiobooks, his podcast, everything is there as kind of a shrine to himself. At ilovehomeralaska.com. You could find him there. And of course, on the airwaves here of KPEN and KGTL at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Chris Story joins us right now. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. And I will only add one thing to that incredible intro, is that it's also your one-stop shop for all things real estate, statewide Alaska. There you go. That's it. Otherwise, you read it just as I wrote it. Beautiful.
And he's got a book, in case he hasn't told you yet already. So, I mean, just, so all the self-promotion is all out there. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over it.
Exactly. So I asked you, what was our lesson for today? What was the title of our lesson for today? And you said the other Pareto principle, which of course means that you're going to have to explain all this for folks out there. I'll let you get to it. What are we talking about?
Well, an Italian, he was an economist and a sociologist, Perot, Alfredo Perot, and he wrote about what we call today the 80-20 rule. Essentially, he was the first to notice that, say, for example, 20% of your efforts will equal 80% of your yields, your results. So he noticed it first in his pea garden that 20% of the crop produced 80% of his produce. And it's true in most of life. You can almost take any industry, and about 20% of the people in that industry make about 80% of the income. And so it's just sort of a general rule of thumb. A lot of people within the business community and other sports endeavors and so forth will talk about this 80-20 rule, and we just accepted it. That's the Pareto principle. Okay. He also wrote about two different kinds of people in the world. And I read this in a book that was written in the 1940s about creating ideas. And it was a really, really good book and a very short little sweet book on creating ideas. And they wrote about the fact that Pareto noticed there were two types of people, speculators and stockholders. And speculators are the type of people that see the world as one giant opportunity. Like, I can solve problems. I'm here to do something. They're aware of it. They come up with ideas, and stockholders are the people that implement those ideas and go to work for the speculators. Example, Henry Ford was a speculator. Henry Ford created a whole new industry and employed thousands upon thousands of stockholders to the point that his company still exists today, employing many, many stockholders. I'm not sure if they have any more speculators at that company, but I shouldn't say I do love my F-150, but I'm just saying I'm not sure that they've got a whole bunch of new ideas. But the whole point of this is to say you're not born with a finite amount of ideas. They're unlimited. You have to mine for them, though. You've got to do your role. You've got to go into your mind and mine your own mind and look around the world and look around the universe and come up with your own ideas. But you're an idea machine. You were a born idea machine. You could choose to be a speculator and implement those ideas and begin to implement those ideas and see the world as an opportunity, or you could be a stockholder. Either way, as long as you're aware that this other life is available to you. You know, Elon is but a man, one person. He is a human being. Bezos, one person with an idea. Gates, one person with an idea. Jobs was a person with an idea. These are our modern, what would you call them, men of industry, and
Right.
Oprah and J.K. Rowling. These people had an idea and implemented the idea, and then thousands of stockholders fell in place behind them.
Yeah, no, and we've seen that these are, men and women of vision. They see what is not there, but what could be, I guess, is what I'm saying. They see the possibility, right? And I guess it's more the positivity than anything else. Like you said, that's what a speculator does, is it speculates on what it be like versus what is it like right now. Whereas the stockholder kind of idea is somebody who's buying into something that's already there, right? Whereas speculator is like, we don't know what it's going to do, but we think it will be great. It's kind of it's a difference in basically in vision and philosophy, is what you're saying.
I think you're right. Yeah, I agree with that. The better mousetrap, if you will. I can see a better way to do this, even if it's a slight tweak or a variation on an existing theme. I think it puts you into the speculator category. And look, not every one of us is going to revolutionize an industry. Not every single one of us is going to do that. But I contend every single one of us has an idea muscle, and it needs to be exercised. It needs to be built on. And I think the world would be a better place if each of us did this, instead of waiting for a speculator to do something in the old, wow, somebody should do something about that. It could be you. So how do you go about building this idea muscle? Let's say you work 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever. You got 5 days a week. Look, I'm busy. I'm in the midst of doing my thing, my career, my job, my family, whatever it is that's occupying 80% of your time. Coming back to the Pareto principle, how about you just spend 20%, a very small amount of your time, weekly, daily, monthly, yearly, in this idea muscle machine, this building of an idea. James Altucher gave us a great idea a few years ago in a book called Choose Yourself. He said, take one of those restaurant order taking pads, and like you see at a diner or somewhere, and get one of those pads. You can pick them up for pennies. Doesn't cost almost anything. And every day for a month, write 10 ideas, no matter how bad they are, mundane, outlandish, wild, stupid, whatever you feel embarrassed, whatever. Every single day, sit down. Could be with a cup of coffee, or Michael, I know you like tea.
Tequila, yes.
And just sit down.
What? Oh, sorry.
And just sit down and literally write 10 ideas, and don't get up until you've done the 10th idea, no matter how dumb or mundane, again, it is in your mind. But if you do that for a month, you might have just one idea out of all those ideas. Out of 300 ideas, one might be, I might pursue that. That's actually a decent idea. If nothing else, you'll just begin a habit that could change the course of your life.
Well, just that habit alone. I mean, putting everything else aside, just kind of brainstorming and looking for the positive and trying to be creative. I mean, that's powerful enough in and of it. Set everything else aside. What you just said is enough to to spark imagination. If people create that habit force in a 30-day window, I mean, that could be life-changing. But most people don't. I mean, I guess most people don't see that. They don't see the possibility or understand that. But what you just laid out there is a kind of a life-changing thing, setting aside the whole Pareto principle and everything else. If that's all they did was just write down 10 new fresh ideas every day for 30 days and create that habit, that would be, I mean, it would be eye-opening.
It is. It truly is. And I practiced that when I read the book, Choose Yourself. I practiced that for 2 months in a row. And I have to be honest with you, because we're in the trust tree here. I did skip a few days in the course of those 2 months, but I still got a tremendous amount out of it.
Right.
And in fact, one book idea that I've now published and put into the world came from that process and came from that idea of expanding on something I've already been talking about. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I put that into a book? That is a book. Why don't I do that? It kind of reminds me of my blog post from yesterday. It's called, and this is something I've talked with you about many times on your show, is that no one's coming for you. That's a blog post from yesterday at our website. It's like, no one's coming for you. You have to put these things into practice, and you have to put the locomotion has to be started by you.
Right. You got to drag yourself
rarely,
up.
Yeah, and rarely is the major is going to come a calling. Especially if you're not even playing t-ball.
Right. You got 2 minutes left here. So what exactly is the second, if you were going to articulate it, what is this second Pareto principle then?
That's it. That there's two types of people in the world.
That's
so
it.
Again, he's incredibly famous for the 80-20 rule amongst business philosophers and writers.
Right.
The second principle is that there's two types of people: speculators and stockholders. And there's nothing, here's my contention. I think we're both. I think we are actually both. I think that just take the world stage for a moment. Elon Musk became a stockholder in the Trump MAGA idea. He's now removed himself clearly from that. But you could even see there two titans of industry in their own industry came together, and it was Trump who was the speculator. I am going to change the political landscape.
Right.
And Elon said, you know what? I'll buy stock in that idea. I'm with you. And he stood beside him for a minute. And then he just is squirrel, and he ran off in another direction. We'll see where he ends up. But that's just on the world stage. That's a classic example of two people. They're just human beings with ideas coming together. And one's a stockholder, one's a speculator. You are probably both in your own life, but make sure you're consciously aware that we needn't cede all of our control to those in charge or those that have stood up and said, follow me.
Right.
We might want to follow them for a while, but we might follow you too.
Right. No. And that's the thing. I think each of us are both of those things at different times. We need to decide how we're going to approach each one and utilize each one of those mindsets, stockholder or speculator. All right, Chris.
And that's the other Pareto principle.
That's it right there. Chris Story, thank you, my friend. We appreciate you coming on board, the man from Homer. All right, folks, we're out of time. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free ticket radio. We'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, Chris. Thank you, my friend. I hope I appreciate that. I'm going to have to go back. Did he actually write about that? The stockholder and the thing? Was something else that he wrote about?
Yep. Yeah. There's a great little book written in, I think it was 1940 or maybe it was after the war. Maybe it was 48. I'll have to look and see. But it's called A Technique for Producing Ideas. And the guy who wrote that book is called James Webb Young. And in it, he describes that other Pareto principle. And I was like, man, how have I never heard of that before? I love the concept. And it's kind of cool when you can find something that just sort of like, oh, that's really simple. But at the same time, it's actually kind of challenging maybe the status quo of your thinking today. And going back, it's like, 80, 85 years ago, this was being written about, but Pareto was around, I think, in the 1880s. So it's well over 100-year-old idea that still rings true today. Yeah, no. And again, it resonates, it resonates with us because of the truth. I mean, and I think that's how you could tell sometimes when things are truthful is because you read it and it just goes, it just resonates with you. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. That rings true. For sure. I think it's sad that so many of us believe that somebody else is going to do something about that. Somebody else is going to save the day. Somebody else is going to come in. I don't have. And I think it's a mistrust in our own instincts. And that's why I really believe that promising yourself to honor your own instincts is really a worthwhile endeavor, because when you do, you begin to trust your own ideas.
Right.
You begin to realize that the people we're following are very flawed. We know that, but they're very flawed individuals, and they're not better than you. I told somebody, I don't know, 5 years ago, I was thinking about running for Don Young's seat, not because, Don had done anything wrong. I just felt like Don was there too long, and he needed somebody to challenge him. And typically there were just, a sock puppet or two that would stand up against him, and then they would lose. And I thought I could do that job. And people said, no, you're not a lawyer. That's all. I don't care.
Neither was he. He was a teacher. He was a school teacher. He wasn't a lawyer.
Exactly. And I think the idea being that I was fighting back on was, you needn't be somebody of law to understand the law. Nobody, like before the Constitution, nobody was a constitutional scholar. Jefferson wasn't a constitutional scholar, right? I mean, Franklin, no, these guys, Washington wasn't a general till he was. We each within us have the power, the seed of either an alder or an oak. And we get to water and fertilize whichever of those two we wish. It's like you've said it many times about the wolf within, or, whichever one you feed, is like
right.
It's going to survive these two wolves. And so it's just, I just love this concept that you and I are no different than Elon or Donald, or pick a person, Bill Gates or anybody else that's on the stage, or even a Warren Buffett or anybody like that, other than, you and I are considerably younger than Warren. I think that's the only thing that separates us.
That's true. It's the only thing that separates us just a little bit. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks,
it was
Michael.
Great to talk with you. Thank you for coming on board this morning. We appreciate it.
All right. It was fun. Right. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Talk to you later. Okay, folks, we got to go. We will see you guys tomorrow. We got, I don't know who we got coming up. Maybe Nick Bagage. We'll see. It's a possibility. We will see you then. Be kind. Love one another. Live, my dog knocked over my light. See? That's better. All right. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. As always, it's great to see you. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show. Well,